Okay,
Let's
hi,
go.
Brian.
Let's call a meeting to order. Either Brian or Andrew can give us an update on what's
Yep.
going on down the police station.
So I think we've made a lot of progress in the last month. We officially started the 365-day contract on June 21st, so we just hit about a month, a few days ago. All the siding's off, as most of you have seen. The slab is gone. We started placing concrete yesterday. Most of the footings were poured.
Songbird.
Today, they poured the rest of the footings in the walls at the front vestibule and the wall that goes out around the tower. So we're moving. We did get our first payment requisition. It just came in late Friday afternoon, so I don't have it. I was thinking for purposes of the committee, et cetera, if we do a motion of a not to exceed, it came in at $292,000. And obviously Brian and I need to review that line item and by line item and make sure that it's okay, but there's been a lot of work. I'm out there doing daily reports, pictures every day, so if there's anyone ever needs something, I do have all that. I can send it to the committee if you want every day. I think it's a little bit much, but if anyone needs on a particular day, I have all that stuff saved, and at the end of the job, we'll turn it all over, but daily reports and pictures, so.
What is included in the daily report?
What is included, the number of guys, all the different trades that were out there. And then we have the testing agent Briggs is on board. They were out yesterday to do concrete samples. Basically everything that's gone on.
So it's an activity report, not a financial?
Correct.
recap. Okay.
Correct. Of actual number of guys and things like that. But, so, when at the end they say, oh, I need more time, when they had 2 carpenters and 3 carpenters and 1, but Mike's been good. They've been on things. Matt's been a huge help on the day-to-day stuff. We've made a lot of progress with Eversource. But we got a check cut to them for $11,000 for the new transformer. We've made progress with the gas company, Columbia Gas. We've gone back and forth, and we got paperwork back to them. Matt was very helpful with that as well, so that's in their hands. I don't think they're looking for a cost, correct?
No,
Mike
we're
Hahn
gonna,
has it,
the
so.
consumption will.
And there is, on the front of the cover sheet, I have the budget down at the bottom. We have $50,000 for utility back charges, so that 11,000 comes out of that $50,000 pot. So,
The $292,000,
Yep.
that's for work done to date,
contract work, correct,
and that doesn't include any additional assessment for the additional concrete that he removed, correct?
correct. That's all base contract,
On contract?
correct, correct. No change orders. I do have one change order to present that's, I know you hear the word change order, it sounds, but Mike from BC Construction used Lopes to take all the concrete out, back to their yard in Taunton. While we were doing that, I had him bring 2 loads of dense grade in so that we could grade the street side. That was, the site work is by the town, so instead of dealing with, I had, when the dump trailers were going back and forth, we brought 2 loads so that we could grade that street side, so when they could work and demo the building from the lifts and stuff. So, and that, it's, their PCO number 2, it's $1,081.39, and it would come out of up at the top of the budget, we have a $300,000 line item for the site work over at the site, so the $1,000 would come out of that. So I know,
Is that $1,000 for what we brought back, or was it for the additional concrete they took out?
this was for fill, this has nothing to do,
Strictly for
this is just for fill that we used on the street side where the transformer and stuff will be, but they needed a stable ground so his aerial lift could demo and things like that, so we did it.
Would have been material the town would had to
What-
procure some other way anyway, it's just
Right.
made it easier to
Correct.
get it.
Just
and-
right.
Rather than come back empty, they come back with a load.
Correct. So,
No problem.
if we want to make a motion on that PCO number 2, to keep, like I said, it comes out of that $300,000 site work line item.
So moved.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
We haven't pushed, I believe we're gonna start the actual site meetings on next week. We've been kinda holding off, just because there's not a ton of subcontractors, so we didn't wanna be dragging everyone out, but we are trying to communicate, like I said, up here a lot with Matt and keeping Bob involved with inspections and things like that. We did start some underground plumbing. They pulled out because they're focusing on the footings, but the plumbers should be back next week, and then it's Paul, correct, I believe, the plumbing inspector, so they won't backfill anything. We do have a lot of excess fill that's coming out of the building at the footings and things like that. We're gonna talk to the DPW if they want the fill to bring it over there. And we're gonna put back structural fill around footings and in plumbing trenches. So, it's a little bit, it's not the best stuff in the world, and he used a lot of chunks of rocks and things like that that aren't the best for compaction, so, but,
Those gonna be 10 o'clock weekly?
correct.
Bi-weekly.
Here, 10 o'clock here,
No, on site.
on site.
So we could, yeah. Do you wanna do bi-weekly? Does that,
That's what we had originally said.
yeah,
The second and the fourth Tuesday of every
yeah,
month.
that,
Yeah, I think that's plenty of frequency.
yeah. And there's a ton of paperwork going on. There's, all the submittals and stuff, and everything used on site is submitted to Brian and his engineers and approved prior to, so,
We've been seeing a steady stream of shop drawing submittals at this point, and everything that's being submitted is pretty much as per plans and specs. So we've been pleased with what we've been seeing so far. Each, not just BC Construction submits, but all of the filed subbidders are also submitting. Anything that shows up on site first has to be approved through us. So that's the process. They're getting all their approvals in place for products and materials. And we're seeing that, and it's pretty active right now for us, going through all those submittals. I guess another thing procedurally, Andrew talked about the first requisition. BC Construction, just to let you know, has broken out the project into two separate requisitions. We're tracking a Norfolk Police requisition, and we're also having to track a MEC requisition. So they've agreed, and they've broken out their schedule of values into two separate projects. The contract was written and signed by the town, but we have two requisitions that are being submitted. Procedurally, I need to know how you're intending to pay for these separate requisitions. Since the contract is with Norfolk, if two requisitions, are both of them being submitted to this committee for approval and payment? Or do we take the MEC requisition, and is it possible to just go to the MEC with that one for payment, even though the contract's with Norfolk?
correct.
Have you given a thought to that?
I thought the intermunicipal agreement said that you would just bring them to the MAC.
Right, and I think Jeff Nutting, the chairman for the Metacom, he did sign the contract as well, so the plan is to bring those to the board of
Okay.
directors meeting
So
direct.
you only want to see the requisitions that are for the police component,
Correct,
and we won't be bringing the requisitions for the
Right.
MEC
Yep.
here. The reason I bring this up is because we're going to have change orders dealing with MEC, and we're going to have change orders dealing with police.
Who makes the decision on that, Jack? I mean,
Board of
you have a-
directors.
So you don't have a separate committee per
Well,
se to
they-
deal with that?
the change orders too, Brian, as BC, they're gonna do two separate change order logs, and hopefully those logs aren't long, but with change orders, but that's what we're gonna do, and they've submitted the Norfolk ones, and they submitted, like, the electrical permit was PCO 1 for the Metacomet side.
Right, and so
So that will
we're,
go,
we're not talking about any MEC change orders here.
correct.
Just to let everybody,
I would, my opinion, I mean, I wouldn't think we would unless it's a structural change to the building.
Right.
Well, there are some common issues, are there not? Some common opportunities?
there haven't been so far, but potentially there could be.
But there will be, potentially.
Potentially there could be.
So how do we deal with those?
it's a good question. It's kind of procedurally what I'm needing to know from you. I think they're gonna end up on one requisition or the other requisition. And if there are items that affect both, we're gonna have to have BC split those out into this component
Right, I
is
don't-
police and this component is mech. I think it's the best we can do.
So, I mean, how would you deal with a common area, for example?
Common area, for instance, might be a filed subbidder, say fire suppression, for instance. You have fire suppression throughout the entire building. There may be a change order that affects fire suppression on both floors. We'll just have to figure out the portion of that which is second floor, the portion of that that's first floor, and you'll only see the change order for the first floor.
Yeah,
If either change order costs the town, if it costs money to change and it costs the town money, we need to see that on a change order.
correct.
Right.
I don't think we need to we'll keep it, it'll all be separate,
Say
that
that
way
again,
the
Matt?
the
If they're,
funding.
if, like you said, on a fire sprinkler line, if they change something and then it affects us, and then they want us to bill us for the change because we had to accommodate their upstairs, we need to know.
It's
I think we should know what the change orders are, and provided that there's no cost to us, but we should have a track,
correct. There'll be none of that. It'll all be smooth. It will. No, it's not gonna be confusing.
like
We're-
Matt's
Like I do with
opinion
coal, I
better.
write that down, and say, it'll be
It'll all
smooth.
be smooth.
We're overanalyzing
Oh.
it. It'll
So
be.
deal with them as they come up,
Correct.
and you'll split them
Correct.
appropriately if they need to be
Right.
split.
Yeah, we're gonna do the best we
The st-
can to separate it, but Matt's right.
I don't
If
like
there's
it
things
because
they're
it's
doing
one
upstairs that's
The
affecting
state's-
components on the first floor, I think the cost would go to the mech.
Well, I think-
aware
I
of
think
anything.
The only message, at least from my perspective, is we don't want a surprise. I mean, if you need to inform us of something that's going on with the Met that may have some downstream implication to us, it would be good to know it at the front end, not the back end. I don't know what that would be, but
The,
this is an unusually unique project that will probably have some unusually unique
I
considerations.
mean, we're gonna own the building, so
Right,
honestly,
you're
I
just gonna
think,
own the building.
I think it should go to Matt no matter what, or myself and Jack, so that the three that can make those decisions on a small change order can at least say, no, that's not ours, that's definitely theirs. And just so that we're aware of what those change orders are throughout the project.
Right. That,
Yeah, I agree. I just think it would be helpful for us to know change orders for the Met that aren't clearly defined. I mean, if they're moving plugs in their room, that's easy. But if there's anything that might potentially have a broader impact to the overall project, it would be nice to know that, even if it's theirs, in theory.
You're gonna have a log of changes associated with the MEC. You just run through those each meeting, say this has nothing to do with, just.
However you do it.
Yeah, it's just a running list, and if there's
Brian's
anything that might
documents
be borderline, you.
that's so tight, there will be no change.
that's right.
So,
That's what we heard from before, so we're kind of expecting
right.
that.
But like,
But we're gonna have a meeting every 2 weeks anyways.
Right.
Matt and I are both are gonna be at those meetings,
Right.
so.
there'll-
I've never seen a project that never change order.
but we have a PCO one that's the electrical permit fees for Norfolk. So that's gone in to Gary Primo, the executive director. He sent it into State 911, so we'll see what their response is. So, and then we'll deal with it. So, but I think they are tracking 2 logs, like that's PCO one for the
This is
Metacom,
PCO one
so-
for Metacomet, the other one was PCO two for the
Right.
police.
And
So
ch-
we are realizing that there's two money streams,
Right.
and we're trying to keep those separate, keep the state happy on the reimbursement side.
There was also, while we're on this whole change order thing, an elevator, change order one for the police side, for the elevator, came in at, we had an allowance of $100,000. It came in at 133, so it was a $33,000 change order. Matt and I did a lot of work with ThyssenKrupp. We got a price at $88,000, so we're actually gonna get a credit back of 10 or 12 grand versus an ad of 33,000, so everyone's aware.
You're my hero.
For a heavier duty ADA,
Right.
gurney rated.
Could become a love fest.
Did you have lunch?
No.
Yeah, change orders aren't always ads. we realize that.
Right.
So, yeah, change order one for the police department is a good-sized credit. It will be, processing that.
Those change orders you can put through any time.
Yeah, those go through a little faster. But the job is going well. I think they've hit the site pretty hard to get in front of things. From the submittals, as they said, it seems like we're getting the products that we're asking for. So far, so good.
Do you know if RDK put in for the energy credit? I didn't have a chance to. Or do
They
you-
have.
Okay.
And I know that you would approve some additional appropriation for that. All I've seen so far is $400 for applying for that.
Yeah,
Incentive.
you're part of the bill, yeah.
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 So it is filed.
It is filed.
Did you, with the invoice from BC, that does need to be broken down from fiscal year 17, fiscal year 18. Has to be clearly indicated as well.
Correct, from last month to this month.
Yes. For the-
I think for the committee purposes, if we'd like to do it not to exceed $292,000, and Brian and I need to go back line item by line item, if we do a not to exceed. And then like Matt said, we need to break it. He sent it in, he didn't send in a bill for June, which going forward, it will be monthly, but he was trying to get rolling, and so I need to have him break it down, that 292 from June and July.
So a not to exceed would be appropriate.
At least seems ballpark reasonable, is it?
It is. A lot of it's insurance and bonds in the first requisition. So it's reasonable.
Just,
It's it's pretty close to my cash flow too, Jack, so.
Oh,
not
good.
bad.
I had,
Very close.
it seems like the MEC got off really light on schedule of values for the insurance and bonding and plans and design, and do you feel that that was a fair number?
Yeah, what they have to do to break that out is they took the alternate number. So it's always going to total that alternate number. So they've given you a schedule of
Well,
values.
some of them, they had like, mobilization for us, but none for the MEC, and even though they were receiving that same.
That's- It has to come up to the cost of the alternate. They bid it with the alternate number being the MEC. So they can't alter that bottom line. The
Right.
total of the MEC is gonna be the total of what they bid as an alternate number.
Sure.
So if
Now
they-
they've just
But
broken
the,
it down.
But it seems like the upfront costs were very heavy on the town as far as the bonding, the mobilization.
So the alternate may not have been done, and they had to mobilize anyways. That's,
Okay.
that's the point.
Correct. But that's the way they bid it, that's the numbers they carried in each category. So how they break it up, they put all the mobilization into the fact that they were doing the project. The fact that they were doing the alternate, there was no additional mobilization for them.
Well, for example, BC Construction was like $10,000 mobilization for us.
Right.
Griffin Electric's 10,000 for us, 10,000 for the MEC.
That's the way they bid
And
it.
others are all us, none MEC.
Yep,
Okay, just wanted to make sure it
Yeah.
seemed it was above board.
it is.
as long as something's not unreasonable and they're trying to front load, get money.
That's
up
my only
front.
concern, is it seemed like it was very heavy on us.
The biggest, obviously, the steel package is in. I think it just came in last, I forget, but that's in for review now, so we're trying to push that and obviously get all the underground in, slab, so, but the push is to get the steel approved, and so.
Just a couple, on the requisition, is that procedurally okay to just give them a not to exceed? I know, like on the Freeman Kennedy, we had to sign off on all the pay recs. I don't know if that was just an MSBA requirement, or you're okay just giving them a not to,
I think
just
so.
want to make sure. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, no, it is different, but
It will, and it'll be certified by Brian once.
You'll
it-
ultimately have it
yeah.
signed by me.
It just came in Friday afternoon, and so we've been telling them for a couple of weeks now, we need your schedule of values and we need your bill, but they are out and active on site, so it's been going well. I think other procedural thing, did we approve the minutes? I don't think so for the last. What's
Just quick question, you mentioned slabs again. So earlier you said a lot of the material in the utility trenches and the footings got hauled off and replaced with structural fill.
Right.
Since they took all of the slab out, did any of that subgrade get pulled out? Has that material been tested, compacted? Is that sufficient for
We have it
Side
with,
base
with
beneath
brakes.
the entire
Actually, we
slab?
should have it back tomorrow.
Okay.
They came out and took a sample. We should have the paperwork.
But they didn't pull out any of the material under the areas of the slab
Correct.
where there weren't trenches or
Right, it was
footing.
extremely hard. It was very, he took up a lot of ledge that was there, rock, and I think he backfilled with it, but it was hard digging. I was there for pretty much every scoop, a lot of it, and it was very hard. We didn't have a proctor on, but we can't use that same material to backfill around, the new
Yep.
trenches and stuff, so.
Okay.
While we're talking about the slab, the drain that's at the two apparatus doors that are going out, those are going out away from Sharon Ave to a tight tank. Now you're taking it, you're bringing it back, but I don't understand how you're tying all that back together again without digging up that slab. Because you've got the Sally Port, you've got two drains in the Sally Port, you're bringing that out on the Sharon side of the slab that's existing. How are you tying that back into the existing drain that's at the other two doors?
The other two. I would have to look at the drawings.
Okay. It wasn't, I talked to Andrew about it, it wasn't clear. It almost looked like you're gonna have to take up part of that slab to correct that if you're gonna bring it the other direction.
Yeah, I would have to get to the drawings and take a look at that myself.
Okay.
I don't know offhand.
We do have to look at it though, but we haven't.
I do have a revised statement of special inspections for you.
Okay.
I think there was some changes on the masonry.
Sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Tori, motion for the 292,000.
Take a motion to approve number not to exceed 292,000. Is there any dollars after that, or just 292?
It was 291 and change, so that's why I did the
292,000.
292. And it'll probably go down a bit once we
Okay.
go back and forth a little bit. But like I said, it just came in Friday afternoon, and we were placing concrete yesterday, not pouring, as the engineers like to say, placing. But, so,
Do I have a
Second?
You should specify the purpose of that. Did you specify the purpose of that?
it's all base contract work. There's no change orders.
Make a difference, man.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'll make a motion to, I want to have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 6, 2017 meeting. Motion, Jim?
Looking for this side.
No, I need some.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, changes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are accepted.
The one other thing before we dive into the fire station, Mr. Yang, fiber. Come on down.
Come on down.
Yay.
So we had got a price to run, pretty soon they'll be starting fiber from all 4 towns for the regional. And we had gotten a price of 62,000. They updated it because it was about a year old. I think it was about
63.9 right now.
63.9.
Yep.
So Mike came to discuss the needs and why it benefits the town, et cetera. I think it helps with the backbone of the phone system, the communications, the controls for HVAC, et cetera.
So the fiber I'm proposing has to do with communication between all town infrastructures to this new location, and that will basically tie into the existing fiber optic network that we currently have for the town, that's linking all buildings. And the purpose of the fiber is not just for phone system; it's for any data communication, including security cameras, data transmission, data storage. As well as the securities for locations. For example, that we can use this data pipeline to pipe school security camera, for example, to the police station. So in the event of the any kind of disaster, the police can pull up the security camera right away and see what's going on at school if there's, God forbid, if anything happens. And also because we're building a state-of-the-art secure facility, we can store our data infrastructure over there, of the financial data, the data that we use that is through the town. We can store that in this new building, and we can also use that new building as the disaster recovery. If any location goes down, we can use the public safety as let's say temporary offices and things like that.
It also ties into parks, right? Did you say
Yep.
that? Sorry.
The same fiber line will go down Route 115, will go right in front of Pond Street Field. So if we, when we do add a new recreation building for the field, we can tie right in, including phone systems, security cameras, and so that all town buildings will tie into with this data line. So.
Another thing that's really valuable with this is the phones. We have right now the hub for the phone system for the town is in this building. There are some copper lines at the police station for emergencies, but everything's routed through here. This building does not have an emergency generator, so every time we lose power, we lose phones throughout the town, which becomes a big problem, especially for the schools, especially around pickup time when they don't know what's going on. We've ran into this a couple of times when we had a limb fall down on Boardman Street, took out the power, took out the phones, nobody knew what to do, the road was closed, it was mass chaos. So having this, it wouldn't be, you'd have to do some modifications to the phone system, but we could house it there where we have all the utilities that we need for emergencies to keep it up and running, which would be very beneficial townwide.
Just saying, move the phone system to be
Yes.
based at the police
remove
station.
remove it from the town hall, have the hub over at the police station, which will be protected by generator, and it would definitely make things a lot more secure and a lot more robust.
And with this data line, we can actually make the new police station as the head end, let's say internet head end if we want to, because at that location has power backup and is highly secure. So
presently, it's partially at the police station, partially here. Separating it right now, partially it was at one of the schools, but so it'd be nice to have the ability to have it in one location, would be well protected.
I guess it's, where does the 63.9 come
Yeah,
from?
that's what I was looking at.
Right, is the
Assuming
big
it comes out of contingency, I assume?
contingency. I guess we could, we were looking at about a $70,000 rebate for the HVAC system we're going with. So we could potentially backfill the contingency with that once that comes in. So that's an avenue if we want to.
We'll use, at least pay part of it out of the utility allowance, the 50,000?
Oh, we could move, there's gonna be some other costs. Doesn't look like it from the gas, but that 50,000 is for Cole's building as well. Once we get over there, we're definitely gonna have to relocate some.
Remember, that's both
Yeah,
projects.
yep.
Right,
Okay, so
but-
I'd leave that and take it out of contingency.
But if
That
we
would be
did
nice.
contingency and then backfilled it with the credit on the, for the HVAC system.
Make a motion to approve that.
Second it.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Good job, Michael.
thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Just one more thing on the
Yes.
police building,
Yes.
if I may, Mr. Chairman.
May.
One of the things that's on the spec list is a BDA. And, a BDA is a breathing amplifying system for emergency forces when they respond to a facility. It's required under the building code. When it came through the fire department for fire department review, I made a notation that given the facility's location and what it's being used for, that there really isn't a need, or the fire department would not require that installation. However, because it is part of the building code, the engineers have come back and reported that because it is part of the code that they have to include it. Perhaps one way of handling it, and I've had some brief conversations with Bob on this, it's a component which could run between $20,000 and $30,000.
one way of handling it potentially, based upon experiences in Franklin, would be to have the facility built and then have the quote-unquote engineering study done to demonstrate that radios can function within the listed purview of the regulation, which I'm relatively confident that would take place. The fallback would be is if it didn't, then obviously we'd have to include it. So it's something that can't be waived. I mean, it's nice that, as the fire chief, have the opportunity to wave the flag and say, we don't need it, but however, it does fall back on Bob that it is a requirement under the building code. So I just want to put it out that just for acknowledgement and that it is being addressed and worked on as far as how it can be potentially handled. The other issue on the review, went through it for looking at the horn strobe devices, the annunciation devices connected to the fire protection system. Two things. On the horn strobes, there's a great deal of them within the building, particularly up in the mech level. Made a recommendation that we change a lot of those to light units as opposed to horn strobes to cut down on the noise. And the same would hold true in Chuck's portion of the building. The other issue that came up that Bob and I talked extensively on was throughout the building, for whatever reason, a carbon monoxide corridor detection system was proposed. It's not required under the fire or under the building code, and I believe that that's being extracted, and made a recommendation that perhaps the carbon monoxide detectors could be changed to smoke detectors. So that's in the process, and I believe that's all through RDK. Just want to put that out there for acknowledgement.
The only reason that I did ask RDK about the carbon monoxide systems, and they only put it in because you have detention in the building and you have an attached garage. That was the only reason that they thought carbon monoxide detection might be suitable.
And certainly in that
the
detention area,
corridors.
I can certainly see that, but running it through the rest of the bill, it was probably a little, at least I personally felt it was a little overkill in that.
Yeah, and I think we can easily convert those to smokes. And
Okay,
we're making those revisions.
nice plans.
Thank you. For the BDA, we could ask for a credit proposal for that BDA. We could present the proposal to eliminate it.
Well, I think that was the idea, that once we test it to make sure that we do actually have, the radio signal that we need, then ask for the credit at that point. He said he's already ordered it anyways.
We can't, you'd have to wait until the project was complete before you do that testing. But that's why it's kind of the catch-22. If we wait too long and then tell them to install it, then it's gonna cost you more. If they install it as they build the building, it's within the project, doesn't cost you any more, doesn't cost you any less, it's in there, and you satisfy the code.
The only other option is BBRS through Bob, and that's the only option that would present itself.
Yeah.
God knows how long that would take.
So I don't know what the best, if we ask for the credit, then you take a credit now and wait to the end of the project and see if you comply. That's,
And then it's gonna cost you more money to put it in at that
That's right,
point.
absolutely.
so,
This is tough
I
to
think
do.
we'll look at it outside of
Yeah.
this meeting. I think we just need to
Just
do a
we'll throw
little
it
more homework. It just came up, I think the vendor for Griffin started calling Chief, correct, direct, so.
yeah, because it is in the project.
I think we'll do some more homework and come back.
Okay, good. So are we on to the fire station?
Yes,
Okay.
we want to move to the fire station. Since the last meeting, we had continued with additional schemes based on comments that we're receiving from the department. And we were all the way up to scheme F, as in Frank. Those, we've given the fire department an opportunity to review those and compare those and talk amongst themselves as to what they feel is in their best interest. And what I've passed out today are two schemes. Scheme A is the scheme that we had at referendum.
Correct.
So this is where we had started from. Scheme A was kind of what we were considering to be the base because it was also what was looked at for costing and pricing when we went to referendum. I've also passed out Scheme C, and Scheme C is being presented as an alternative layout to Scheme A. And I'll let the chief address it further, but I think Scheme C seems to have a lot of components that are more favorable than Scheme A. And,
Start, you want me to start? Obviously, as Brian pointed out, there, a number of proposals were submitted. There was a great deal of input that was provided by the rank and file regarding what the perception was in terms of what would be advantageous to them in terms of the facility. And without addressing that, because I believe that they're going to speak to that, I'm going to hold my comments to the schemes that are presented here. I think that one of the things looking at would be on Scheme A, while it provides a situation where the staff are almost integral to where the apparatus is located. One of the problems with Scheme A that comes into play is from an operational perspective. You're moving the staff back and forth from different areas. You have the ambulances and the first engine with the ladder truck and the second engine on the right in the new area, but yet the squad, which is used when we're at 3, is located on the opposite side. So theoretically, during the day, we would certainly be running out on the new area, grabbing the engine that is staffed during the day, and the ambulance going out. But once we hit the night, where we go down to 3, the shift officer is traversing the opposite end of the building to get to his vehicle. So that certainly has something in terms of what we have. Looking at Scheme C, the true advantage to Scheme C is the larger garage area, where we can position the apparatus that's utilized on a daily basis under one area. The only drawback to that is the crew quarters have been moved to the opposite side. But again, the advantage is that we have all the apparatus housed in that location. Some of the concern that has been brought back to me in terms of garage space and garage space, and we have to keep it, is we do maintain half of the existing building in terms of sheltering the additional apparatus, be the marine units or special hazards, Car 1 and Car 2. Those would be the extra pieces that would be housed there. The layouts themselves, are ones that certainly I feel offer advantage. I think the only other thing I would speak to on Scheme C is that it provides an opportunity to keep the shift officers in a location where they are together, that each shift officer has a separate workstation, and plus potentially have access to the public as they enter the building, which could be beneficial during the periods of time that the administrative assistant is not staffed. And certainly as growth continues in our community, the likelihood of additional staffing and having someone 24 hours a day staffing that lobby area is certainly something that it becomes very real in the realm of possibility. I think the other thing I would point out is the footprints themselves are fairly identical. The square footage, if you look at, there's a small adjustment in the square footage, but the way they're laid out is pretty good. I think the one thing I would throw out is on Scheme C, particularly the idea of having a restroom available for the staff in the apparatus bay is one which would be also advantageous. So other than that, I would curtail my comments to what's been presented.
Brian, any comments?
according to the budget, we have $4.8 million. And when we were looking at the original fire plan, the original cost estimates were coming back in excess of 4.8, and we had scaled back some of the concepts and some of the scope to get it into a 4.8 budget. The way that 4.8 was broken down was the addition was about 2.5 million. The renovation of the existing building was just over $1 million. And then we had $1.2 million in site work. If I look back over the 4.8, and if I equate it to scheme C, the new construction, we had budgeted about $384 a square foot. If we were to do scheme C, if it was majority of apparatus bay, storage spaces, even if we put in a bathroom, I think $384 a square foot is achievable, just for that addition. The renovations, though, are budgeted at $110 a square foot over the remaining existing space. That's a number that's concerning. At $110 a square foot, how much can you achieve for that? Now, I think there still has to be,
When you say, so you're saying $110 doesn't let you do say the training room and the,
well, you have light renovation area, which is achievable, and then you have heavy renovation area. The area of heavy renovation would be the area of the bunk rooms and the bathrooms and the showers. That's heavy renovation. That would be over $110 a square foot. But the 110 is average. If we go over to the special hazards, the apparatus, squad 2, 4, there's $0 really being spent there. The training classroom and physical training room, that's not a lot of heavy dollars to create that area. So
Are you on A or C now when you're talking about
It
that?
averages $110 over that.
Or you're just in general?
No, I'm looking at C.
C, okay.
I'm looking at C. We're maintaining the structure, I think, which is good. Before we go any further, whether it's scheme C, my recommendation is to get this to a professional cost estimator and have them look at this and give us some level of assurance that this plan is something that we should be drawing, or it gives us a roadmap. If we have the cost estimate, it gives us a roadmap then of what might have to be set aside till later, what we'd have to do with the drawings to get this back to a 4.8, or maintain a $4.8 million construction budget for this project.
How much are you carrying for site work?
But yeah, site work was high at 1.2 million. If you do, and that was because of the rock.
So,
So that we might not need 1.2 million. Leave the site work and put that money toward renovation. But that's what the cost estimate will also help us navigate.
Right, I think they just finished up taking down most of the trees today, and we're exposing it. I don't think there's as much rock as people thought, so. We also already got some numbers from
showtime.
Unless things change, I don't think we're looking at 1.2, you know, especially if we can do it before it goes out to bid, you know, and that's what we were doing today, so. We're finishing up the trees and digging to expose some of the rock.
You're saying you already have a cost estimate on scheme A.
You know, that's what I was saying, but I looked back in my files, and the only professional cost estimate I could find was on the police and the MEC. I don't see that we have done a professional cost estimate on any of these fire schemes. We have a budget number, but it's never gone to a professional cost estimate.
You were just using square foot costs for the reno.
So we may very well be in a situation that even a scheme A
Right.
would be over the line.
But you still owe 3
Or
estimates
we could be
per your
substantially
contract,
under budget.
correct?
Yes.
Or it could be substantially under budget.
Yeah, I think that 1.2 is way over the line. I've always said that.
Yeah, I think
I don't
there's
think
money
there's
there.
$1 million worth of site work.
And that was taking all paved surfaces, repaving everything, restriping, yeah, and maybe that's not required.
we haven't looked at the septic system yet, have we? Whether or
No,
not,
Bob had it replaced a couple of years ago, correct? With,
I know, but there was some talk that replaced system wasn't gonna be adequate, I thought.
no,
I haven't got a definitive answer from Wade, but the fact that we're going down to half the people that are gonna be in that building, seems to me why it wouldn't be.
So septic system isn't in the budget.
Not at this point.
Good,
No.
okay, all right, sorry.
And the 384 square foot, that's for the apparatus area? Even though there's really no construction inside, it's just kind of a, I mean, I understand the.
Well, that was based on scheme A, when there was locker rooms in there and there were showers in there, and now there aren't.
Right, so now, what would the square footage be just for the apparatus bays and?
I just took the original budget, applied it to C,
All right.
where the original budget was really applied to A.
Yeah, so that number would come down too, so.
Right, but Brian's point is the Reno number is higher than the 110. The new number is lower than the 384, but where they fall.
But realistically, we're taking wild guesses here.
Right, Brian,
Yeah, you need to
Brian
get a
owns
cost
3 estimates.
You need
for
to get a
his
cost estimate.
contract.
Yeah, we need to price these out.
Now's the time to do it before you start putting
Right.
pencil to paper.
As the chief said, square footages, we're apples to apples here. There's really no change in the square footage. But we've shuffled the deck as far as renovation and addition. We want to get a cost estimate. We want to make sure we're sending the right scheme out for that cost estimate, or things will shift again. So if scheme C seems to be the consensus, do we have an approval to send scheme C for the cost estimate? I don't want to send out C and then find out we're really going to do F. That's
Yeah, makes sense.
where we need to
Well,
be at.
let's talk about that for a second. Scheme F took away the back part of the left bays.
Right.
Kevin's not here, but Kevin Brady asked me to, sent me an email yesterday and asked if I'd come down and visit with him, and I said sure, and so I went down and met with, the chief was there, Kevin was there, maybe Brain Dead, Kelly was there, and Mike, was there Mike Finland, and there was another officer there. I apologize, I don't remember the name, but anyway, I understand that the union folks wanted scheme F, because it had internal components that they favored, whatever reasons that might be. They know better than me. But the problem with Scheme F is it takes away a lot of our Bay Area. And we had, I think this group had agreed that, we want to build a station that's going to accommodate not just what's here today, but we want to accommodate potential growth. We're not building it for tomorrow, we're building it for tomorrow plus. And so originally when I looked at this, even Scheme C concerned me, because it does eliminate 2 bays, which, when you look at the fact that we've added a third extended bay, it's really a difference of 1 vehicle. But it is a difference of 1 vehicle. And, but then I think they made a very good point in terms of why this made sense, and so from my perspective, I would support pricing out C. But at some point, we can't keep playing with this. I mean, I would support pricing A and C. I will say, personal view, I did see F. I would not support that at all, because it takes away 3/4 of the bays, and we need that space. We absolutely need that space, and we're not going to house it in garages or the water department's garage or in the backyard anymore. Our whole intent was to get all the equipment into one building. And I think we'd set that as a goal from day one, that we want to get all the equipment into the building. And I think C, to the most part, accommodates that. F did not. And so I personally, I would support getting A and C priced out, see where we stand, and if it's within budget, get the best input we can as to whether we go A or C. But I think we gotta.
I think Brian was looking for us to choose either,
Right.
Yeah, I
and
would
only
say
do one estimate on one
Want to do just one
scenario.
estimate?
Just one, just
I would
on C.
I would support doing C.
Yeah. I would also. It might balance out. The new construction's probably gonna be less, but the reno's gonna be more.
Correct. And we need to see what that estimate is.
Yep.
Translated into current bidding. We're seeing pricing going up, unfortunately. The last couple bids that we received, for the police department, it was favorable, but some other bids after that, they're starting to creep up. We need to anticipate that too.
Business is good.
Are you including the roofs being done over as well as the windows being done over? The doors all to match across the front of the building? all those things? Just want to clarify that.
Yes.
Well, that's just my thoughts.
Yep, I agree with that.
Just a quick clarification, Jim, you mentioned the vehicles, that we are showing more vehicles in Scheme A than Scheme C. It's like 2 additional,
Yes.
looks like there's no, maybe it's just not drawn in there, the antique and the marine
Yeah,
unit and
they-
trailer. I
they
guess.
have- they have
So those would go
definitely-
elsewhere under Scheme C.
They would be included in there. One way or the other.
Mike, I think you're going to lose one vehicle. I mean, you're taking 2 bays away that house normal vehicles, still 2
Yeah,
vehicles.
total up
Yeah, but
all
you
that.
didn't
Picking one up in the third
People
bay.
there.
Looks like you put-
because you've
so
got
it's off
3
by 1.
potential there. In simplistic terms, and Chief, you tell me if it's just too simplistic, I saw it as a loss of 1 bay,
Really
1
not too
vehicle.
long.
I would hope
That's what I meant.
12.
an extra one here.
Plan F was a loss of 3 vehicles.
Basically,
Well, you think of
either lose the
that.
Plan F was a loss of 3
marine unit
vehicles.
trailer or the
This is a
Well, how do
tractor
we know
trailer.
if it's all gonna fit if it's not on the scale?
Chief, these blocks representing vehicles are not necessarily on the scale either, correct?
You have to-
They are,
for-
they gave us
They
these
should
dimensions.
be, yeah. You gotta make sure everything fits.
Usually try and use
This is 90 feet
math
deep,
when we
right?
do this.
Yes.
Well, I didn't realize that
We're
the
gonna
staff
still
car
keep the
was
garage
as long
out
as the
back?
tanker truck.
Yeah,
Well,
that's close.
Oh, then
That's
the
close.
antique, I mean.
Ford
Oh, the
Expedition,
antique.
or a semi-truck.
It's there, but
This isn't
I
quite
think
one
the
column
direction of
line,
the
that's a little
town
more
is, while it may be there, it's going
I see
to
what you're saying.
reach its life expectancy, and at that point,
Much
we'll have a
much
concrete
gets
slab out there.
play,
That building will not receive town support. That's the message I've had.
Which building? The
The old garage.
The old garage.
And it wasn't our plan to spend any money to renovate that.
Oh, not at this time, I don't think, but I mean, I haven't looked at it, so I don't, it's not my expertise anyway. So I'd like to try and save it if we can.
Question for Brian. So we cost estimate
Yeah.
plan scheme C, and we end up with a problem. From that perspective, can that be run back to plan the scheme A? Or once we commit to scheme C, we estimate it, then any of the issues that we have to do in terms to make this up and to make the cost work, what do we do at that point? I mean, can we still fall
I
back
s-
to?
I- You asked me yesterday what my opinion was on cost. I see that Scheme A and Scheme C should be comparable in cost.
Yeah.
What we're doing from Scheme A is we're taking the wet areas, the green spaces,
Moving them over.
we're taking them out of new construction, we're putting them into renovation. So we're reducing the cost of the new construction, and we're shifting those costs over to the areas of renovation. Square footages is comparable. The spaces that we're providing are comparable. The bigger difference is in Scheme C, we're going into renovating the original apparatus bay space. That's where we creep into some additional scope.
And I think, Cole, if I understood Brian correctly earlier, if we price out any of them, say C, and let's just say it comes in too high, but it also gives Brian a lot of information about how to value engineer, to use the
Right.
horrible word. So then we can make changes, and then, you've got 2 more cost estimates that's owed to us. So then we go back, we make changes based on that, better information we have, and we try and get to the schedule scheme. G.
I think if
That's
your
the answer I
goal
was
is Scheme
looking
Yeah, I
C,
thought so.
Thank you.
your goal is Scheme C, let's continue on that goal to get Scheme C.
Okay.
I will make a motion to price out Scheme C.
Second?
Any discussion?
Do we want to give firefighters an opportunity to present Schedule F?
I don't know what was spoken about in the last few days. I understand that was a meeting.
I think you gotta
Yeah, come on up.
come up and use a microphone.
Use a microphone, introduce yourself.
Over there?
Sit right here. Do you need copies of Scheme F?
No.
I have a small scheme here, that'll be fine.
Seth, grab this, you got the microphone.
There's a microphone right there.
Wherever you'd like.
Wherever you want, wherever
Right
you
there's
want.
fine.
All right. So, as a union, with all the changes that we've met up with, discussed and had meetings about, we discussed
Scheme F would be most beneficial in the long run as employees for us, working for the town, and as, for future employees coming through as well, as far as,
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second? Do you have copies?
I have a small copy for myself.
Sue's gonna
We
go,
brought it in
just,
from-
so everybody can see it.
Yeah, we need to
Oh,
look
yes,
at it.
yep. So, it basically appeared to us, with all our discussions, to be the most beneficial, like I said, for now and into the future, as far as like, just accessibility, what am I looking to say? Continuity through the station, as far as, you know, what's, I mean, even for newer people coming in, what's gonna be almost expected of, for people to be working in the fire department, locker rooms and such, physical training area. What we were considering, which seems to be off the table, which is somewhat understandable with budget and everything, but, was the use of the garage out back, since it's remained a storage area over the past, I'm not sure how many years, but, it's remained a storage area for years now, for police vehicles, police equipment and such, where we could store some of the, I wouldn't call them apparatus, our marine units possibly, the antique possibly, would be completely accessible in even a rapid response time frame to be housed there, would allow us to have the access of the rear of the bays on the pre-existing building. But you'll see that in this one, there's a men's locker room as well as a female's locker room. The lockers are removed from the hallway, from where Scheme C would be. Like again, as a group that we all decided that we did like this scheme Z the best. Yeah, Scheme Z. Not there yet. Not yet is key word. I'm not sure what else to speak about for it.
If I just add for Seth, I mean, this has been a truly compassionate display by the rank and file. In fairness to them, they have thought it out quite well, and have brought forth, you know, their concerns both to me. They've spoken with Jack and with Jim. My comments to them have been not so much along the lines of the locker room, but what's been spoken, you know, what's been addressed in terms of the base space, and taking the locker room issue aside, that the base space becomes an issue, one of which I just have difficulty with as serving as a chief, to say that's going to work out. But I think that it needs to certainly be well-sounded that this is something that you have to give credit to the Group 4 to collectively come forward, and certainly, you know, Seth, obviously, you know, and I wouldn't anticipate it to be that way, and Kevin left him here because he had to go on a call, but you know, to try to articulate that and bring that forward. So I just wanted to, you know, put that on the table.
I apologize if I'm not able to bring across all the conversations that have occurred. I haven't been privy to some of them that have happened, but I mean, we appreciate just being able to let you know which one we'd like. We understand it's not always going to go our way.
Yeah, the primary differences between the two have to do with locker room space and bathroom spaces. That's the
Looks like
primary
nothing else
difference.
has really changed
No,
in the new bay.
it's the
really
bathrooms
just
and the locker room.
Locker room.
Right.
There's a difference of opinion of whether they want a common locker room with common wet areas or individual bathrooms for showering and changing. That's the two differences. They're the main difference between the Scheme C and Scheme F. In order to achieve the locker rooms would then have to contain toilets and showers within the locker rooms. We needed more real estate to make that happen. So now we're bringing more plumbing and new construction into the existing base space. We didn't drop any function, so all the functions are still there, such as physical training and training classrooms. And so nothing was deleted. We just needed the additional square footage to provide the locker room space and put the lockers in. And we had to differentiate how many male lockers we'd have to provide and how many female lockers we have to provide in each locker room. In Scheme F, I'm not concerned about how many lockers are male and how many lockers are female because they're out in the corridor, and therefore all firefighters to access. No, they're not changing in the corridor.
You mean C?
You mean C?
What did I say? Scheme?
You said F.
Ski, C.
Ski, yeah, go ski.
So they would have the lockers in the corridors for storage of, and then they would take and use the individual toilet rooms and shower rooms as changing rooms. So you didn't need to be concerned with how many male and how many female, because we just provided 26 total. I do think Scheme C will cost you more than, Scheme F will cost you more than Scheme C.
Right.
So there are more dollars to achieve Scheme F than Scheme C.
Yes.
First, you don't have to apologize for anything. You guys have done a great job, and I want to, none of the guys I met with yesterday are here, but I appreciated the fact that they reached out, and I understand why you like this, I think. But I shared with those folks yesterday the two major concerns that I had, which is one, cost, and I'm not, logic told me this cost more because you've got to bring all that plumbing and everything out to the side, and it becomes in many respects new construction because you're dealing in basically a garage. But the other concern I have is honestly bays. Yeah, today we could survive. We put, the old fire truck doesn't go to a fire, or, the boat, twice a year on a good, if we're lucky.
I couldn't answer that, to be
So,
honest. It's cheap, whatever.
you can live with that, but there is no room for new growth here. None. If we come even close to potentially having the development that we fear, you may have a need for a third ambulance. You don't know. We do know we're going to grow, and we do know we're going to have increased needs, and we have no room to do that in F. That was my major concern. The other was the staffing component, and it's just a hypothetical, but I brought it up yesterday. I mean, there are more and more women getting involved in these types of activities. What happens if you end up with a 50-50 staff relationship? Plan C, at least, you don't care. You're in a situation where it's kind of unisex. It doesn't matter how you're staffed because you're not putting anybody in a position of being compromised. Whereas Plan F does, potentially, if the staffing switches. Those were my concerns, and I understand the reason for it, but the bays are the big thing for me. I just don't want to build a station that is full the day we open it, and that we can't get another vehicle in there. That just doesn't make sense to me. But
I
that's just
understand
my
your argument
opinion.
about the base.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
just my
finances.
opinion.
I would echo Jim's concerns, and just to add a little bit, I think you're going down from 12 vehicles down to 10, from C to F, and then, and when I met with you guys, I shared my concerns about the locker room style. I just, having two reasons. I put my HR hat on and pretend I'm Scott Bragdon. I hear all the, we sit through these training classes and talk about all the different situations, and, we may have a situation where we need locker rooms for 3 different gender types, if you will. again, I think C allows you that flexibility. The other situation, and having discussions with my wife and being a longtime supporter of female sports, I look at the difference between the two, and I look at F, and I say, all right, 3 people are out on a fire, they come back, they all got a shower at the same point. You have 2 male officers go into a shared locker room situation. You have a female go into a female locker room, and you're creating a different, a country club situation, if you will, for the men, and in a situation where the women aren't part of that same situation. So I just think you're creating 2 different classes of officers, if you will. And to Jim's point, the other point Jim had, if you have 2 females on and 1 male, you come back and you can't have one female has to wait for the other female to shower. So I think C just offers you more flexibility and treats everybody on an equal basis. My recommendation would be C.
I can tell you, since being here in '04, and the board that hired me at that point gave 2 directions. One, in ALS, and that was reasonably easy to do, looking back. And the second charge was to do this. I can tell you unequivocally that the intervening 13 years to get to this point was a cakewalk, as opposed to go and agonizing through the plans on the Scheme F. The passion, of the rank and file for this was, really, really tough. And moving forward, I mean, one of the things that I remain very hopeful for, and I think we have a great workforce to accomplish that, is that, regardless how this plays out, that the workforce remains engaged. It's very, very important, because as opposed to police, which is an 8-hour shift, these are people who live there, and this is really their second home. Their home away from home. And, I think that in itself is the reasoning behind, why they have such a passion for that, to Plan F.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, is there anything anybody else from the department would like to add that I might have misspoke or not represented quite right?
No, I mean, I think we're just trying to accommodate everybody and try to fit a lot of things in a tight square footage space, and it's just tough. And I think we're trying to prioritize what we think is going to be best for people coming in the door and what we have now, and it's tough because it's such a small building. So I think it's just tugging at what's more important and what the priority is, and it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I would commend you guys for spending so much time working on this, and
Absolutely.
And Cole for the past, other than Chuck, who's spent years and years and years on this, and John, there's been no one putting more effort into this entire effort than Cole over the past
So
10 years.
I didn't know any better.
I still remember when you punched that sign behind each all day, so.
I don't remember a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Can you guys, can you help me understand why, what is it that you have against the individual locker room approach that's in C? What is
Just
it you don't?
the
what is it
idea
you
of like
don't-
getting your daily belongings out and like traveling somewhere else. Where if you go into the locker room, you do what you got to do. You're ready for shift. Like you grab your daily belongings in the hallway. You go into a bunk room. You change. You pick your stuff back up. You bring it back out again. It just seemed to make more sense to have everything located in one spot where you do one thing at one time and you're done with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, just convenience-wise, for the most part, what it would be. Then again, like you go to take a shower, you're in the locker room. You have your belongings right there. Where you go to take a shower, you have to go to your locker, grab your whatever you have to do to take a shower, bring it into the bathroom. Do what you're doing. Come back out, put all your stuff away again. Where while you're doing it in a locker room, it's all in one area. You don't have to really. Same thing as high school locker room, nice and easy in and out.
But how would you deal with the changing in staffing?
Changing in staffing, the consensus through the department, and speaking with the females of the department, as well, is that we can't picture in the next 30 years having, 10 women on this department. I mean, am I speaking out of turn? I mean, it could happen, but it's,
I mean, I
and
could easily see-
statistically,
I could see
percentage-wise,
three,
the chances are,
Why
So
why
slim.
why couldn't you see three, though?
you could see three, but,
So three on a
and
shift,
the answer
that-
to, I mean, I'll agree, I could see your points in the bays or the money. I mean, we're gonna, pretty much, from what we've spoken to with everybody, we'll just agree to disagree on the locker room deal. What the chief even said when we were talking about just locker rooms and bathrooms in general, is he doesn't want a full crew showering at the same time at all. Somebody's gonna have to be available to answer a phone, answer a radio call, or what have you, which, if we're running 3 people, it's only 2 people in a bathroom at one time.
If you have 2 females trying to go into the bathroom, they gotta
Well-
they gotta wait.
And if you have 3 men,
two
one's
females
gotta
now.
wait.
Just one, but you had some in the
That's
past.
just-
We got two at one time.
Okay, that's a good point.
Right, like, it's, again, percentage-wise, like, it may happen, it may not, but again, like, you have
But
3
in,
men,
but
you're
in
gonna have somebody waiting too.
Scheme C, if you have 3 men, they don't have to wait. Because they all.
Well, no matter what, one person has to wait.
I just want to put out there that perhaps I misspoke at one time or another, but my feeling has always been if we return from an actual fire where people have been exposed, we put them in there, that we have a recall staff there that can staff while the on-duty shift is cleaning up, so. We got 3 showers, we'll put 3 people in there. At least as long as I'm there, we'll shower them all together and get them all out.
I have no idea whether I mean, probably not 8 and 8, I agree with you, but we've had, I think you're the 3rd female firefighter that we've had since the last 10 years. So it's certainly, I mean, we've had 3 already.
No, I understand.
And so it's not at all unrealistic that we could have 3 female firefighters.
No, I agree. It's more along the lines of, maybe possibly like where they'd fall at a time. Like, we always talk about, every group is diverse. We have, a very strong medic in every group. We have, a really strong firefighter in every group. We have, and putting people of the same body type or build, or even that, like, isn't the best idea. Like, Kevin Brady and I will probably never work together. We're like,
Guys don't
You
like each
you
other?
both can bench press.
No,
I
I mean, like,
understand.
we do this, technically, like, he's just
No,
as
he's
strong
just
of a
saying
medic
that
as
the
I am.
likelihood of having
We have the
3
similar
females
build,
in
we have
the
the
same group
similar
is not
physical
what-
abilities. It wouldn't really make sense to pile one group with whatever positive assets that he and I both have that are similar, like, everybody has their strengths, and he and I seem to have the same strengths. And even to put 2 or 3 smaller men on one group isn't a great idea.
But
But
when
2 or 3 large men isn't a great idea, because you'll have an incident. I mean, Kate was at a call the other day where they're like, let Kate get in there. Like, why are we fighting this? She's the perfect person for this job. When you were gonna go in the back of that car. I mean, everybody has their abilities, and the diversity of the group it's the best idea is to
Yeah.
keep it
Yeah,
completely
agreed.
diverse. I mean, not to say that overtime wouldn't,
Right, I was gonna
cause
say
people with
swaps and
similar abilities
overtimes
and
and all that
similar body
stuff.
types and everything else to work together, because that obviously happens quite frequently, but, I mean, we're kind of beating a dead horse on the whole locker room thing, I mean.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I just
I
just
don't
wanted.
mean it in a negative way, I more mean it
No,
like,
I just-
we both understand our, what we're saying, and it is what
I'm
it
not,
is.
I'm not arguing against your logic at all. That's why I asked you why, and it makes sense. I understand what you're saying. I just don't know how you overcome, well, the loss of the bays. I just don't know how you do that. And I wouldn't, if this were truly, what you guys wanted and we could make it work price-wise, would I argue about putting an old fire truck in a garage in the back? No. But what I would argue about is no room for growth. You've taken away 3/4 of the existing bays and added one over what we originally conceptually thought we needed. And so as I think Jack said, it's 3 vehicles that go out the door, not just one. Which means there's, and there's no room for a new vehicle that, in addition to the current staffing. That's not, to me, that's just not a good decision for the town. I understand that the concept may be, I do, I really do, buy why you want that. But I don't know how you overcome the bay. I mean, we can't build another fire station in 10 years, you know?
I understand.
And
I
so
think that's what we're all
it took us 10 years to get this one through, so. And your input's been invaluable. I mean, you guys know the flow a whole lot better than we do. You know, we couldn't build this thing without your input, so thank you for all the effort, and I echo what Cole says. I know you've worked real hard on this. I know you have. I could see that yesterday when I met with the four guys, and I hear your passion on it. I just don't know how you overcome that. I really don't, and I am concerned about the cost. This is an old building. Does it go back to 52 or 51 or
60, early 60s.
early 60s? Okay.
64.
64. I mean, Matt, there's asbestos in there, wouldn't you bet?
Asbestos, PCBs, yes.
Well, I
Yeah.
know there's
So,
asbestos.
when you're in a building like this, we don't know what we're guessing what we're gonna find. And the experience we've had to date is we find more than we thought we were gonna find. You know, I mean, it's rarely less. And I don't want us in a position where we compromise some basics that we need in the station. That's what I'm worried about. So if we look at a plan that we know is probably gonna cost more, and I don't know how much, but I think you've said you're fairly confident that Plan F is more expensive than Plan C.
Yes.
We're increasing the risk that if the pricing, and if the bids come out even higher than what we price it, which is also something that we heard for the first time tonight, we're gonna be back designing a station that's gonna give up basics, and that's not good. I mean, you don't wanna lose a training room. You don't wanna, I mean, if the pricing, what happens if we have to give up the meeting room and the training room? You know, and have to get those bays back because we can't renovate the bays. That's what I worry about. And, so I guess it's an unfortunate compromise from my perspective. I sure understand it, but I don't know how, I don't want us to get down the road and find out we can't build what we thought we had. That's really my concern. You guys have suffered, police also, but that situation is on the move. You guys have suffered in a horrible building, under horrible conditions, and you've put up with it. You built your own dorm rooms, you've lived in a trailer in the back of the place, and you've done wonderful service to this community. I can't say it enough. You guys are phenomenal. Police, fire, this town, I don't know how lucky they are. You guys are great. I want you to have I don't want this to sound like I'm trying to say you can't have what you want. What I'm trying to say is I want you to get what you need, is another way to say it. I want to be sure that when we end up with a station, we end up a station that may not be what you'd like, but it's a functional station that meets the basic needs of the community, and we won't outlive it the first 2 years we're in it. That's my major concern. So anything that can compromise it stays within those parameters that you guys want, you got my support. It's just that we got to get it within that $4.8 million.
Yeah, as we design fire facilities, there's no right and wrong to these locker room issue. There are new facilities out there that model locker rooms the
Yep, I'm
way
sure.
that Sean has described it. And there are new fire facilities that model locker rooms the way it's shown in Scheme C. It really comes down to some preference. We've been directed to do locker rooms like Scheme C, just because that's what the department has instructed us to do. So that was a feeling of those departments, that model is what we wanted to put into our facility. But then again, there are other facilities we've designed that model it after the locker room concept in F. So it's not a right and wrong. It gets down to a preference, and it's really philosophical and operational for the.
Taking the female issue off the table, I can even see the benefit of the camaraderie. You know, I mean, I grew up in that environment, you know, with a locker room environment where we had showers. I mean, probably a lot worse than what you guys have now, but, you know, showers on the wall, that's the environment we grew up in. And I think all of us did the play sports. We were in that. I'm not saying it was the right environment, but that's the environment we grew up in. I can understand.
It's more along
Well,
the lines
I read a
of
story,
of
I think,
of the
Cole, I think you
accessibility.
directed me to it. You directed me, there was a fire chief that wanted to go back to the locker room style as opposed to the individual
do it
styles, because he
off the size
thought
of
it
the
wasn't creating the right camaraderie around the group, and I said, yeah, I got it. Like, that makes sense
Probably
to
gonna
me.
run me about $4,000.
But we've got to focus on the basic needs of the station, which is base space and cost.
We could reevaluate.
Quarter six?
Well, what I was going to ask, and I think, Matt, you're heading down that same road. I mean, there's really not a huge difference between Scheme F and Scheme C. So could they do sort of the base cost estimate on Scheme C and then sort of consider the changes that would need to be made to get you to Scheme F as sort of an ad alternate? So you're not pricing the whole facility. You've got that basically the base cost in Scheme C. It's just whatever changes you need to be made to get you to F. Sort of do a separate side estimate for that, so you can see the differential
Still
between. Is
doesn't
something
answer
that
the future apparatus.
Correct, but if it comes back, it's $1 million, and I'm just throwing a number out there. If it's $500,000 more for Scheme F, then that sort of helps us weigh that decision. If they're close in cost, then that at least takes that part of that equation off the table, and then it comes down to a question of giving up the bays, which I think is important, but by the same token, as Jim said, we want to give these guys and women what they want, and that's why we're on this committee, so they can get a building that they want to come to every day and they're happy with and proud to work at.
That's another part of, even C included, the training classroom and those things are huge in this day's fire service. I mean,
Yep.
we train, have education, like, I wouldn't say constantly, but very regularly, and I mean, it's part of our daily shift as well, never mind any classes that we all attend or apply for. And that, it's only out of it kind of brought a fear up when you said, oh, I don't want to lose, what if we don't have money for, it's like those are things that would make this station a modern station. You take that away and you still have an old department that looks nice.
I mean, if you go back to A.
I'm not trying to be rude or
No. I mean,
just saying,
even Plan A has your training room in there.
No, I understand. I'm saying if we came up short on money, that would be awful.
I was just
as far as that.
I was just using that as an example.
And that goes into Chief would probably speak on this even further. Recruitment. You have people who come in applying for jobs, especially nowadays. Paramedics are few and far between, as far as being able to find people to hire, and you have a department that's lacking certain things that other departments around the areas have, and I think it'd be tougher to bring them in. As far as like you speak of the future, I mean that it's those are things that younger kids now that are going to decide to choose this field and do the work that it takes to get into it are going to see, and they're going to weigh their options because. We all know it peaks and valleys, but as right now, we're kind of in a paramedic valley.
Mm-hmm.
And if it lasts for a while, you're going to have a whole bunch of people that have everywhere they want to go in the palm of their hand.
Now, you've presented your case very well. Yeah, thank you. I'm with you. I don't want to lose any of that. Mike, I'm okay with that. If that's not a big cost item, I mean, I think it's how much to do a cost item on this?
Probably be about $4,000 for us to get a cost estimate on C.
And then,
But incrementally, they can estimate what would be the added cost to get to F.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
At least it gives you something to
I mean,
compare. and
honestly,
then
it doesn't solve the Bay issue to me,
Right.
but I think to Mike's point.
It answers one of the questions, and then you can think about the rest.
Yeah.
Like I said, we as a department or as employees just appreciate being able to voice our opinions and give you our ideas.
So, you want to amend, who made the motion?
There's no
Oh, I
motion.
did. I did.
There was a motion.
May I offer a friendly amendment to that motion to price out the addition of that locker room component?
You can offer a friendly amendment to your own amendment?
If you can. Well, was it an unfriendly one?
Well, it wasn't, why don't we make a new motion?
I will move to price out option C, and to do what's the correct word on this, Brian? Alternate consideration, or, is that okay? Alternate consideration to what additional cost might be presented to us to add the locker room component as illustrated in option F.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you much.
Unanimous.
Super.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else we need to go over?
Trees are coming down.
Trees are coming down.
We've had a brief meeting with Main Drilling and Blasting, just to have them come and take a look at the site. They said if we had to blast the entire site, we'd be between 35 and 38. To do that, but
Do they have to do that?
obviously, we're not gonna have that. They wanted that as a number that we would have. Obviously, once we start scratching the surface, we'll be able to determine how much ledge is actually there. Contractors that Bob McGee has been good enough to bring in for us to get that part of the job going are gonna try to accomplish that the best they can, and then we'll have a better idea. Bob has worked very closely with Lopes to follow up on the removal of the fill that's on the site at minimal or hopefully no cost. So that continues. Again, that area remains staked out. If anybody wants to take a look at it, the stakes are still in place and everything is still marked. So moving along.
So we have,
If you start blasting that land, that church is gonna fall down.
so who's kind of coordinating this whole effort? Is it Matt, you?
Sure.
Sorry, excuse me.
So I just want to make sure, so we're not having multiple people call multiple vendors and all that stuff. So I was hoping.
Who's in charge of the clearing?
Who's in charge of clearing and blasting, or I guess who do we want to have doing it from here on out? I would suggest Matt, but.
There you go. Great.
Alright.
Congratulations.
So moved.
Second.
Well, the only thing I would say is if you have to call these different blasters, because they all come through and
Right.
they're, so you.
Get a permit.
Because you should have 2 or 3 prices on this,
Yeah.
not just
Well,
one.
if we get to that point, I mean, the other side of it could be that we could jackhammer it out, as Bob has done with the back section there. I mean,
Okay, I'm not saying anything wrong, I just, so as long as you just coordinate it all through Matt, and so they're all on the same page, that's
Do we have
all.
a line?
don't want
on
6
the
people
fire
making the
side
decision.
set up yet, though, for site work?
I think so.
No.
No,
I
it
gotta
would
know
either
some
come
sense
out of
That's
the
the one thing I was concerned about, is where we're putting the funding on this work.
It would either come out of the 4.8 or the fire contingency, the 250.
So we need to have that
Well, it
figured
comes out
out.
of, well, or I guess originally it comes out of 4.8, right, based on Brian.
Right now, it's just a 4.8
They
number.
just never cash the check. I don't understand why the bank does it now.
And we have an understanding of the limits that would need to come out in terms of how far, how deep
Yeah, we took
you need to go.
all the trees down, just to be safe, but they needed to come, and we'll be working with Brian.
Well, you're talking about
Just in terms of the
level.
ledge, yeah.
Right, how
much-
deep?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're gonna have to go a few feet under to get trenches in for plumbing and things like that under the existing slab now, but haven't got that far, but we will, yeah, probably take it 2 or 3 feet below the existing slab.
You're talking about for the fire station?
Right.
You're gonna go probably 4 or 5 feet deep to put the foundation walls in.
Right, or if we left some of the rock in the middle, if it got to that, we could, for the perimeter, as long as we can get pitch for the drains, but we haven't really got to that fine detail, but yeah, that'll be with Brian as the plan.
Still want to end up pulling out a lot more rock than we end up
Than we need
having
to,
to.
right, yep.
Once, obviously, we're putting the cart before the horse because we don't have design drawings yet, but
Right.
just want to,
3 bays, 2 bays.
yeah. just-
Squeeze the bay.
How long is it gonna take to get the estimates done?
2 to 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks?
Schedule a meeting 3 weeks from now?
What's that?
Schedule a meeting 3 weeks from now?
Brian, when will we have pricing back?
2 to 3 weeks. I would,
So we should
I think
schedule,
we'll, I say pricing back in 2 to 3 weeks, I think.
yeah, but I wanted to be sure that you were right.
Oh. That's a good time for the
Just
next
in
meeting.
case.
2 or
You know,
3 weeks.
A shot deserves a shot. George, when do you think the pricing will be back?
I love George's calendar.
That would,
So how about the 15th? Would that work? That's
works for me.
it's another selectmen's meeting, so that would work.
The 15th?
Yeah.
Of August.
So when you say 2 to 3 weeks, do you mean 3 on the outside or 3-ish?
I would say
Three.
I think end of August for the bill, for BC's, they'll have an August bill as well, I think, right?
Yeah, well, we're talking about the pricing for the fire station.
Okay.
I mean, even if it's a short meeting, at least to know where, I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, if we do it all together,
I don't care. If
There's
you
a-
want to do the end of
there's a
August, that's fine.
building meeting on the 22nd, is that right? Second and fourth Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Or-
The 22nd would be,
It's 4 weeks.
So Brian and Andrew
So
will
they'll
be
be
here
there.
on the 22nd, so do you want to, for the building meeting, do you want to do it that day?
I think that would be safe.
22nd it is sold.
Gives you
By
an extra
me.
week for the
Good by me.
4 o'clock?
4 o'clock, 22nd?
4 o'clock, correct?
4 o'clock. August 22nd.
In case anybody wants to bring a cake, that's my birthday.
That's your birthday?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll make that notation.
Wow.
45?
39 pound.
39.
Yeah,
Kid.
right. Nobody believes that age.
Thanks.
Only because you're so accomplished.
All right, I'm gonna go home and get some dinner.
Meeting is adjourned.
Wow, that was,
Wow.
that's so much for democracy.
Just declared it.
It's good to be chairman.
Get you a gavel. We're out of here. Okay,
Okay,
okay.
on the
See
22nd.
you back here at 7.
Love a strong golf tournament on the
Thanks, guys.
25th?
Thank you.
August 18th.